Hi, my name is Treyon Treiner, and I did my statistical article analysis on first-generation college students versus the major they end up selecting. So, the purpose of the group who ended up actually executing this test was to figure out if there is an association between first-generation college students and the major that they select. So their theory was that the first generation college students are going to be significantly more likely to pick a major with a set career path, or that they're more likely to pick a major with less risk of unemployment. And they believe that this is the case due to the fact that generally, because they are a first generation college student, they are going to be more, or their parents were either going to be immigrants, for whatever reason decided not to go to college, didn't have enough money to go to college themselves, so they're sending their kids to college. And because they're the first generation, they are more pressured to succeed, and they are more going to be likely to choose a career or a degree that has a set career straight out of college, or a degree with a very, very low risk of unemployment. So now we'll talk about what is an actual low risk college major. Probably the major right now with the lowest risk is going to be petroleum engineering, with a very, very high salary of $125,000 straight out of college, all 4 years, and with a 98% employment rate out of college. I don't know what those 2% did to not get hired, but they must have messed up. And then what is a high risk college major? Probably the riskiest, there's been multiple studies done on this, the most risky degree that you can get coming out of college is a psychology degree, or in general a social services degree. They're fantastic minors, don't get me wrong, but generally as a major, they are very, very risky, with the majority of people not being able to find jobs out of college, which is not good. Also, another high-risk major that's up there is an English major. Unless you want to be a barista at Starbucks, then go for it. Because with psychology, you have a very, very high chance of not getting chosen for a job due to the fact that there is very, very small amounts of openings in schools for counseling positions such like that. And then, so this generally ends up meaning that psychology majors will either try to start their own practice or get an interning position at a current practice, and a very, very large amount of individual, kind of independent psychology, psychiatrists end up failing within their first year or so of operation. And so their hypothesis is, like I said before, first generation students are much, much, much more likely to choose low risk majors, such as petroleum engineering or computer sciences. So the method for this test, the data was retrieved from 9,000 students ages 12 to 16 from the National Longitudinal Study of Youth in 1997 cohort. And then the population of the test is going to be all students in 1997. The sample for the test that was executed by the group is 1,981 students, which is all of the students ages 12 to 16 within that 9,000 who earned a college degree by 2010. And then the test that they used was a chi-squared test for association. They started with just the first generation college students, whether or not they were first generation college student versus which major they selected. They broke them down into 11 major groups, and then decided that based on which major they selected, whether or not which group they would fit into, and then certain groups were considered high risk, certain groups were considered low risk. The sample size, or N, is 1,981, so the same amount. That's all the college students who were ages 12 to 16 in 1997 who earned their degree by 2010. And then the chi-square test statistic value is $24, or 24.84. And then the p-value is 0.0057, which is extremely small, which is good for the test, and good for first-generation college students, that is for sure. And then another cool thing that they did is they actually controlled for a lot of lurking variables, including household income, whether or not they were male or female, which at the time did have a greater chance of impacting employment, or if they were black or Hispanic or considered minorities in the nation. So what's cool is that all of these different tests that they accounted for, they got the same result through all of their tests, that they all failed to reject, or they all reject the null hypothesis. So, conclusion. The group rejects the null hypothesis that there is no association between college students and the major select, so therefore they conclude that there is in fact a positive association between first-generation college students and the major that they select. They are statistically significant evidence to prove that they are much more likely than their not first-generation college student counterparts to choose a degree with a high employment rate, high salaries, and low risk of unemployment. And then, like I said before, that was regardless of all lurking variables. So, possible improvements based on this. They could have done a census. This seems like a fairly easy thing to do a census of. Take all college students who have earned degrees, ask them what degree they got, and whether or not they were a first generation college student. I would probably be one of the easier things to do a census on, and by doing it in the sample or the voluntary response way, it does give a little bit more bias towards the successful graduates. I mean, if you're a lot more likely to voluntarily respond to a survey if you were successful in your post secondary education endeavors, whether or not you got the job and all that good stuff, based on your major. So thank you guys so much for your time, and have a good day.